Welcome, Aiboan. So in this lesson today, we're going to have a look at the Cambridge Book 13, especially the speaking component, right? So even if you're doing academic, even if you're doing general IELTS, the speaking test is the same. So whichever one you're doing, you could have a look at this video. So, as you know, the speaking test has 3 parts. Part 1, Part 2 and Part 3. So having a look at Part 1 in the introduction, this part of the test begins with the examiner introducing himself or herself and checking the candidate's identification. It then continues as an interview. In the interview, the examiner asks the candidate about him or herself, his or her home, work or studies, and other familiar topics, right? So as you know, in part 1, you're going to get 3 topics and you're going to get 12 questions. So under each topic, they would ask you 4 questions. Now let's have a look at television programs, right? So it's not television, like we write sh in Sinhalese, right? It will be television, right? Television. Some people call it television, right? But actually it's television, right? Where do you usually watch TV programs or shows? So usually I watch it at home in the living room, right? So that's where I have my television and I would watch it there. What's your favorite TV program or show? Really, I don't watch a lot of television, but my favorite TV program would be, I don't know, Hita Illana Tharu, okay, which runs on this specific channel called Swarna Vahini. Right, I'm not promoting either one, okay, so I have to give you examples. Please bear in mind that when I pick out examples for speaking purposes, it's not to promote either brand or, either company. It's solely to express my views for the speaking test. Are there any programs, shows you don't like watching? Yes, I don't like watching, the ones that bring out kids and, they have these little store and, they bring out kids talents out. I don't really like it because kids don't really understand it. And I think most Sri Lankans really don't understand what they're doing about it. So bringing out kids onto TV shows and then making them act and dress in some clothes sometimes which are inappropriate is something that I don't like watching and I don't want to kind of promote it. All right, so moving on, do you think you will watch more or fewer TV programs or shows in the future? I think I would watch fewer TV programs. I mean, when I was young, I used to actually watch more than this and it has reduced. And I think in future it will be less because you could just watch it on YouTube or online. So I wouldn't really watch it on television. And I think I'm not into TV programs as I used to be, so it would definitely be less. Okay, so let's have a look at part 2. Now in this part of the test, you will get a specific card and you would have to talk about this for 1 to 2 minutes. So better if you could speak close upon 2 minutes. Now you have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say and you can make some notes if you wish. At the end of your prep time, which is your preparation time, the examiner would say, all right, remember you have 1 to 2 minutes for this, so don't worry if I stop you. I'll tell you when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please? Right? So try to make sure within the time frame you cover everything here. Describe someone you know who has started a business. You should say who this person is, what work this person does, why this person decided to start a business, and explain whether you would like to do the same kind of work. Right, so you can make some notes if you wish. Now we've done many books and 4 tests per book, so you know what the approach is. So I'd like to describe a person that I know who started a business, and this is one of my students called Vihanga. So actually he started up his own business, in the sense he started a supermarket. So he kinds of brings things from the wholesale people and he sells it in his supermarket, and he has a variety of products. So it could be food, detergent, household stuff, bakery products. He has a small bakery and he also freshly bakes bread and buns and other small bakery items. He also has, the snacks, the drinks, the rice, and other types of grain, seafood, meat, ice cream, dairy products, veggie, fruit, all of these things. So knowing this person, why he decided to start a business was he was born into a business family, and his father also had other businesses running. So they had a tire shop, they had a spare parts shop, they had a car dealer shop where they would sell cars. So they had a variety of businesses running, and he thought he wanted to start up on his own. So he invested in starting up a supermarket in the area that he lived. Explaining about if I would want to do the same work as him, definitely no. I don't want to get myself involved into a lot of business because I feel I'm not a good businesswoman, so I would definitely not want to get involved in the same kind of business. Right, so you can give answers that you think would be suitable, right? But make sure you signpost and you use language. So part 3, we'll be talking about choosing work and work-life balance. So let's have a look at choosing work. What kinds of jobs do young people not want to do in your country? I think young people don't want to do skilled jobs like, becoming a carpenter or becoming a plumber, a laborer. Those are some of the things that they do not really want to do at a young age. Who is best at advising young people about choosing a job? Teachers or parents? I think it depends, because teachers actually in Sri Lanka after grade 13, they do not get involved. It then becomes lecturers, university or, undergrad, postgrad lecturers. So I think advising young people about choosing a job could be both, because lecturers, sometimes they work in the industry and they have a better exposure and understanding about the job market. So parents also have their dream thinking, oh, my son or daughter should, take up a job opportunity like this. But lecturers or people outside who are teaching the youngsters would understand what their skills are and what the job market looks like for those kind of jobs. So I think both parties should equally be involved when they're choosing job opportunities or other career paths. Is money always the most important thing when choosing a job? I don't think so. Personally, what I believe is you should have job satisfaction and you should do a job that you're happy doing. So if you don't want to do it, then there's no point in doing it. If you want to be a cashier and you're happy with it, then that's what you should be doing, because that's easier for you to excel, right? That's just my view. However, you can disagree and say, oh, no, you need money, so definitely you should select that, right? It's just that personally I've tried it, and I was initially a banker, but I was never satisfied because it was so monotonous and it was always working in front of a computer, which I felt wasn't really something that I wanted. Okay? Right. Talking a bit about work-life balance, right? It's how well you balance your work as well as your personal life. Do you agree that many people nowadays are under pressure to work longer hours and take less holiday? I totally agree. I'm also one of those people who are under the same pressure, because you've got to work longer hours to finish your workload and to finish and meet the deadline. So I think, yes, people work much longer hours and take less holiday now. What is the impact on society of people having a poor work-life balance? Lots of problems. Actually, in Sri Lanka, I think we're one of the highest countries who has divorce rates. It might not solely be based on this, but still, it does have an impact. So if you can't balance your work as well as your family life, it comes to a point where people actually break down. You would be under stress. You would be screaming at your kids. You would be getting divorced. Sometimes people cannot handle the pressure and they start drinking. They start, deviating from their job. So in the end, what happens to the society is you're left with a bunch of stressful people who in the end might sometimes need psychiatric or psychological treatment, a support, which could be a problem, because if the working age group cannot work efficiently, then we cannot function as a country. So in the long run, it could be quite problematic. Could you recommend some effective strategies for governments and employers to ensure people have good work-life balance? So I remember I worked for this Australian company about a few years ago, and I'd like to pick out a few strategies that they used in their organization, which I felt the government or the employers could use. So number one was they had strict deadlines of your start time and finish time. So you start at a certain time and you have to work only for 8 hours. And say that you log in at 7 o'clock, so after 7 you go 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3. By 3 o'clock you could finish your work, right? And the next thing is they had a policy where you leave your laptop in office, right? So there was no work that you go back home and do, right? It was always you finish the work within your work time. So to be efficient, and you would leave your laptop at home and go. Leave your laptop in office and go. Saturday, Sunday was definitely an off day, and no one could call other people during the weekends, because that was the time you spend with your family, and it ensured that you don't disturb other people during their weekends. We were also encouraged to take our holidays, annual leave, and any leave that we had not taken, which was paid. You had to take it. So you can't really take it to the next year, or you can't really accumulate it. You must take that holiday within a certain time. So people were encouraged to take holidays. There was no overtime paid. They paid you a really good salary, and the salary scales were determined according to the KPMG market standards. So everyone was getting paid really well because they were highly skilled jobs. And so that meant that people had an ease, right? And, no overtime was encouraged. So just because you work overtime, they don't pay you more, which I think government and other employees need to think about it. So I've heard in Sri Lanka, a lot of people, they get paid overtime more than they actually get paid on their 8-hour job, which is crazy, right? And it means that people want to work more and more. Sometimes it's really inefficient because they're not doing anything, but they're just claiming overtime, right? So I think these are some of the strategies that the government and other employers could think about if they want to encourage people to have a good work-life balance. So you could pick out a few others, right? It doesn't have to be the answer that I gave. Give them a family day, bring their family members into the company sometimes, have a function outside. I remember one of these leading companies in Sri Lanka. They used to have family time. Okay, so they called it Family Sandeva, which meant that, everyone in the family, they were taken to a 5-star hotel and, they were given accommodation. 5-star means like Shangri-La, okay? So they could spend the time with their family. They had a nice buffet. They had a concert. People coming in to sing and dance, and employees had some time. I'll show you another organization where they support good work-life balance. Let me show you a quick video. Alright, so let's have a look at a video, right? And this is one of the best places to work in the world, and it's Google, right? So let's see what they give their employees as perks to encourage them to have a good work-life balance.
This is Google in Mountain View, California. Home of the most extreme office perks in the country.
We have everything you can imagine. Google really takes care of us. I'm much healthier and happier for it.
And it all goes down at Google's main headquarters, aka the Googleplex. One giant funhouse.
When I first met the founders, I walked into our office and found Larry Page on rollerblades and Sergey Brin bouncing around on a physio ball. And I knew...
So they started Google, so he's talking about them, right?
This was no normal standard company.
That's an understatement. Spanning over 1 million square feet, the Googleplex is 2.5 times the size of Giant Stadium. Comprised of 16 buildings.
So it's that big, okay? 2.5 size of a Giant Stadium is huge, right?
Which house the thousands of employees who are lucky enough to work here. And just like the campus, the perks are endless.
If you open your eyes, it's hard to miss them.
One of the most crowd-pleasing perks? That would be the food.
Food here at Google is part of our culture. We have a variety of restaurants serving all sorts of different styles of food, from tapas, small plates, or ethnic foods, Indian to Asian to South American.
That's right. Instead of your typical little lunchroom, Google has 18 different cafes serving breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
The food is really incredible because there's...
So they have 18 cafes, okay, and they serve breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And it's not just a standard one. You can select from any of these 18 restaurants, okay? So you can imagine what a variety of food that they have.
So many options.
And the best part? All the meals are free. That's right, free.
So you don't pay for your meals, they're completely free.
What could be better than a free lunch? Free barbecue. In the summer, Google takes it outside for some serious grilling. But if that doesn't get your mouth watering, how about this?
One of the cafes is called Cafe 150. Everything served there comes from within 150 miles of Google. It's all delicious, healthy, mostly organic and locally grown food.
And if eating locally is eco-friendly, Google takes it one step.
So Cafe 150 means that everything is grown within 150 meters and it's mostly organic, and they also grow within Google. So their own premises also they grow, right?
Step further, because they grow their own food right on campus.
Our employees, they're excited with the cafe that says Google strawberries and key lime Google pie.
But even that's not enough free food for these employees. Because Google makes sure there are unlimited munchies within a few feet of everyone's desks.
We're about, 40 feet from where I sit at my desk.
And unlike your average workplace, Google provides more than an old coffee pot and creamer. They hook it up fancy Java style. And oh yeah, it's all on the house.
Right, so you have free snacks to munch within 100 meters of each person's table. So you can think how good this is, right, to work in a place like this. And it's not just a normal coffee, right? right? It goes beyond that, and they actually have a professional coffee making machine, so you could make your own coffee, okay?
I get up from my desk quite a bit to make myself espresso to keep going.
But if employees feel like they've had too much to eat, Google's got the perk to take care of it. Not one, not two, but 4 fully loaded gyms. And you guessed it, they're all free.
Having the gym here at Google has been great for me because it's allowed me to train for 2 marathons. I've been much healthier and happier. And
so they also have 4 fully loaded gyms, right? And it's also free. You could train in for marathons. You could use their gym whenever you want to, right?
Definitely getting those lunch runs in has been perfect for getting back to work. It's made me so much more productive.
And for those employees gunning for a six-pack, Google even has personal trainers on site.
It's a great asset having personal trainers here. They really work one-on-one with you and help keep our workforce fit.
After feeling the burn, there's only one thing left to do. get a massage. Once a year on their birthdays, these lucky Googlers get a free rub-down.
Is there anything that's bothering you today? Neck, shoulders, back?
Feeling sleepy after that? Employees can nap in sleeping pods while listening to some relaxing music. Still not enough TLC? There's also a doctor's office to take care of any aches and pains.
Hi, I'm Dr. Razavi. How are you today?
And of course, no doctor's bill. But Google doesn't just take care of their employees' bodies. The company also does their laundry. That's right. Google provides on-site laundromats for their employees' dirty clothes.
You can show up for your day with a bag of laundry over your shoulders, throw your laundry in our washroom area.
So you can do your laundry when you get to work. So you can get all your dirty clothes, come to work, put it to wash, dry it, and then even get it ironed or pressed if you want to, right? So they really provide their employees all the facilities beyond, right? I don't think I've seen anything like this here in Sri Lanka. It's beyond.
Go to work and go home with your laundry done.
Doing laundry at the office is a Google tradition. Founders Larry and Sergey have been pulling this act for years.
They would work in this garage at the home of a friend. They would also do their laundry. The owner of the home used to complain they would cost her more money in utility bills than they were actually paying in rent.
I just got out of work, I went to the gym, worked out for an hour, and now I'm here doing my laundry. How cool is that? Where else can you do this, right?
Only at Google. But even with all these amazing perks, sometimes Googlers want to leave the campus. And when they do, the company provides the wheels. And no, these aren't your average gas guzzlers.
We have both plug-in Priuses and regular Priuses. So any employee that wants to check out a car and do some errands, they just have to use this really simple electronic key, and they zip away. And when they're done, they just plug the car back in, and then the car gets recharged.
Free car? You better believe it. And when these lucky employees come back to Google after running some errands, there's only one place left to go. The sleeping pods. Hold up, we're not done. Because the Googleplex in Mountain View, California is just one of 68 other extreme Google workplaces around the world. First stop, Belo Horizonte, Brazil. Here, Google...
So out of 68, the one that I showed you before is just one, and let's have a look at the other places, a quick view around the world.
Employees can grab a quick nap, not in a pod chair, but in one of 4 indoor hammocks. Next, Beijing, China. In the high-tech digs of Tsinghua Science Park, employees have their team meetings in beanbag chairs. And when it's break time, they're hanging out in one of 10 micro kitchens, playing ping pong. But Google's most extreme international workplace has got to be Zurich, Switzerland. Google created this engineering office with one thing in mind: to keep their 400 employees happy. So they brought in a psychologist to find out what would gratify these Googlers. And this is what they came up with.
So Zurich, Switzerland is one of their main places, right? And when they were kind of developing that office, they only kept something in their mind: how can they keep their employees happy and motivated, right? Because they work a lot. How can you give them a good work-life balance? What are the other perks you could give them so that they would be happy and they would work as well as they could manage their personal life?
A lounge that houses exotic fish in an aquarium full of 1,850 liters of water to calm the minds of these hard workers. Then there's the Victorian Library for a change of scenery, so these Googlers can feel like they've escaped the office on their coffee break. And when they want a little privacy, they can go into one of 100 different pods, with themes ranging from a Swiss chalet to an igloo satellite. Moving between floors? Why take the stairs when there's this fire pole? That's right, a fire pole. And for their lunch break, these fun-loving employees wanted the quickest way to get to the cafeteria. The answer? This slide. Yep, at Google, the perks are out of this world, around the world.
Right? So at Google, what they give their employees is beyond what we would ever imagine. Okay? So I hope you learned something out of it apart from me just telling you all of these things. As I always tell you, I like to show you things outside from the world so that you would actually see the good things that happen around the world. Okay? So you could take a few points from that video as well and then talk about it and see and put it into the context of work-life balance. Right? So moving on, we're going to have a look at the next test. So in this part as well, right, rather in this test, you will have part 1, part 2 and part 3. So in part 1, the examiner will begin by introducing him or herself and checking the candidate's identification. Then it will be like an interview where the examiner asks the candidate questions about familiar topics. They're not going to be very difficult. They're rather easy topics, right? Let's have a look at age. Are you happy to be the age you are now? Yes, I am. I don't have any regrets because I've learned so much and I've turned to this specific age. So actually, I am happy about it. When you were a child, did you think a lot about your future? Well, to be honest, no. I didn't think a lot about the future. I was a very carefree kid, so I didn't really focus about the future. Do you think you have changed as you have got older? Yes, I think so. I've become more matured. And I've understood that your whole life does not revolve around friends. And I have a limited number of friends now because before I was younger, I had a lot of friends. But as I've grown older, I've realized a few friends is better than having a lot. And your family is the most important part of your life. What will be different about your life in the future? I don't know really, but I think what will be different is once my kids grow up, they would probably leave to uni or they would move out and then probably I'll be alone with my husband and it would just be the two of us. So, this whole noise and stress and screaming around would definitely go away. And apart from that, when you become older, probably, we'd have... we wouldn't be so busy, so we would be less busy and we would have more time to relax. Moving on to part 2. Now remember, you would get a specific card and you will have to talk about the topic for 1 to 2 minutes. So you have to make sure that you speak close upon 2 minutes. You have 1 minute to think about what you're going to say and you can make some notes if you wish. At the end of your preparation time, the examiner would tell you, all right, remember you have 1 to 2 minutes for this, so don't worry if I stop you. I'll tell you when the time is up. Can you start speaking now? Okay? So let's have a look at the card. Describe a time when you started using a new technological device. What device you started using, why you started using this device, how easy or difficult it was, and explain how helpful the device was. So started means it's in the past. So I'd like to talk about a device that I started using, and that was a phone, a mobile phone. I actually started using this device around 2004, and why I started using this was because I didn't have a way to communicate to my parents if I was out or if I went somewhere. So I found that it was quite useful to have a mobile phone so that I could contact them. Apart from that, I could also message my friends without always calling them. So I found that as well quite useful. Talking about how easy and difficult it was, in 2004, all of us didn't have any mobile phones. It was after A-levels that, my mom and dad actually got me a mobile phone. So it was difficult at the start to get ourselves used to this whole mobile phone concept. But with time, it became less difficult and it was more easier because we knew which options the phone had and how to operate the mobile phone. It was really helpful because I could communicate to my parents, I could send messages to my friends, and when it was rather free time for me, I could also play a game. So it was quite a useful device at that time. I mean, we didn't have internet access at that point, but just to keep in touch with our friends and family, it was an important device, right? So you can talk about a computer or any other device that you found useful. So for part 3, we're going to talk about technology and education, and then technology and society. Right, let's talk about technology and education. What is the best age for children to start computer lessons? I think the younger it is, the better. So probably around the age of 6 would be a really good age. Do you think that schools should use more technology to help children learn? Definitely yes. The world is moving more towards the use of technology. So using technology in school, within the classrooms and, within the school exposure would be much better so that they're really comfortable when they move out of school. Do you agree or disagree that computers will replace teachers one day? I don't agree with that because you can't really have a human person being replaced. At some point, you need people to assess the answers, to give them feedback, and you need a human touch when you're teaching. So I don't think that computers will ever replace teachers completely. Talking about technology and society, how much has technology improved how we communicate with each other? I think it has improved quite a lot. I mean, in the past, we had to send letters, but now we can send emails and then we could, talk to people on the phone. But now beyond that, we could use social media, we could use WhatsApp video calls. It's just a matter of, snapping your fingers. You could talk to anyone that you want. So technology has improved drastically throughout the years. Do you agree that there are still many more major technological innovations to be made? Yes, I think so. I'm not into technology quite a lot, so I don't know them in terms of specific names, but I do feel definitely there are a lot of more innovations to come up in the future. Could you suggest some reasons why some people are deciding to reduce their use of technology? I think one reason is because people find it quite stressful because you're always dealing with either a computer or a phone or some technological device that you find less time for yourself. The second reason is that it's not always reliable. You can't rely on technology. Now, for example, when there's a power cut, I just couldn't open the roller gate. It relies on technology, so they would open, but obviously, if it's not there, then it's a disaster because you can't open the gate and you can't get out then, right? So it could be unreliable in certain instances. The third one could be that it's losing the human touch. People have stopped communicating to each other. Now, when I go out, I sit down, I see everyone. Okay, everyone's on their phone, right? Even if it's dinner time, everyone's just going. Because no one really talks to the other people. They're so much into their mobile phone or use of, social media that they forget to keep in touch with humans, and that human touch is reducing. So I think these are some of the reasons why some people have reduced using technology. All right, so moving on into test 3. Now, just like the first 2 tests, this also has part 1, part 2, and part 3. So as usual, the part 1 will begin with the introduction of the examiner and checking the candidate's identification, and then it continues like an interview, right? And the examiner would ask the candidate familiar topics. let's talk a bit about money. When you go shopping, do you prefer to pay for things in cash or by card? I prefer to pay it by card because it's easier to carry less cash in Sri Lanka, because sometimes you find a lot of robbers and people, stealing things or mugging you. So it's easy if you have the card, because if someone takes it, then you can just cancel it and you don't have to carry a lot of cash around you. It's easy. So you don't need to take change and stuff. So you just pay it by card. Do you ever save money to buy special things? Yes, definitely I do. If it's the birthday of someone special in my family, like my mom, my dad, my husband, or my kids, I definitely save up little by little to buy them something very special. Would you ever take a job which had a low pay? Yes, I mean, if it was something that I want to do, definitely yes, I would take it depending on what I like to do. Would winning a lot of money make a big difference to your life? Yes, I think so, because I could invest it, I could use it for something good, I could change, and I could get a big house, I could get a nice car. So definitely, I think it would make a big difference. So we're coming into part 2, right? And now I'd like you to do this part on your own. Remember, in part 2, you would have to talk about the topic for 1 to 2 minutes, right? You have 1 minute to prepare, and you can make some notes if you wish. At the end of your preparation time, the examiner would tell you, all right, remember you have 1 to 2 minutes for this, so don't worry if I stop you. I'll tell you when the time is up. Can you start speaking now, please? So what's your topic? Describe an interesting discussion you had as a part of your work or studies. You should tell me what the subject of the discussion was, who you discussed the subject with, what opinions were expressed, and explain why you found this discussion interesting. Okay? So I'm not going to help you. I'd like you to try it on your own. Okay? Right, so moving on into part 3, we're going to talk more about discussing problems with others and communication skills at work. So let's have a look at the first topic, which is discussing problems with others. Why is it good to discuss problems with other people? I mean, there are positives as well as negatives, but the positive aspects are when you discuss, you will see things from a different point of view, right? And it's always good to have a look at something in an open manner. So that would be good. And also you could, get the stress off, the burden off yourself by discussing a problem with another person. Do you think that it's better to talk to friends and not family about problems? It depends on what the problem is. Sometimes it's better to talk to friends because they could understand you better. But some problems, if they're related to family, then the best person or the best people to talk would be your family members. So it depends on what the problem is. Is it always a good idea to tell lots of people about a problem? Personally, I don't think it's a good idea because it always makes it a mess. Okay? There's a saying too many cooks spoil the broth. So same way, if you tell a lot of people, then they're going to give all their views, and sometimes the problem turns out to be worse than what it really was. Let's talk about communication skills at work. Which communication skills are most important when taking part in meetings with colleagues? So I think it's more or less your verbal communication and non-verbal communication, which are the most two important parts when it comes to attending a meeting with colleagues, because you need to express your views, but how you express it also matters. What are the possible effects of poor written communication skills at work? Well, one possible effect could be that, people do not understand what you want to tell them. They could get the wrong message. They could decode the wrong message. And the other reason could be that, it doesn't look very professional when you can't write properly because you're doing a job and you need to make sure that you maintain professionalism. So it might not be too good if you can't write properly. What do you think will be the future impact of technology on communication in the workplace? Well, I think the impact would be a lot in terms of communication in the workplace, because we're using technology more or less to send emails, to have video conferencing. So I think the impact would be quite a lot. Right, so we're moving into our last test in the book. Remember, you've got 3 parts, part 1, part 2 and part 3. And part 1 is a very easy kind of discussion with the examiner. You've got 3 topics and you've got 12 questions. They would ask you 4 questions under each topic. So don't worry about the time because the examiner controls the time completely. Let's talk a bit about animals. Are there many animals or birds where you live? Well, yes, there are lots of animals in the sense, the domestic animals like the dogs and the cats and the chicken, and sometimes we've got pigeons, different types of birds, the demalicha and, what else? What can I say? Yeah. Okay. We've also got parrots coming in around. We've got the crows. So a few types of birds, I would say. How often do you watch programs or read articles about wild animals? Well, I don't read, but I do watch programs when my son watches the documentaries or TV channels about wild animals. Have you ever been to a zoo or a wildlife park? Yes, I have been to a zoo, and I thought it was good because you can learn about different animals and their lifestyles, what they eat, their habitat. So I thought it was quite good. Would you like to have a job working with animals? Yes. I really dreamt of doing a part-time job when I was a student, but I didn't get the opportunity because I didn't have any, knowledge about animals. But definitely that's something I would like to do. So part 2 and 3, I'd like you to do it on your own, okay? Describe a website you use a lot that helps you a lot in your work or studies. What website it is, how often you use it, what information the website gives you, and how it helps you to change, right? If the website didn't exist. So think about it. Remember, you have 1 minute to prepare. You need to speak for 1 to 2 minutes. You can send us your tape script, what you're thinking of talking, or it would be nice to hear your video clips if you could post it in the comment section. Okay? So part 3, discussion topics will be about the internet and social media websites. So first, let's have a look at the internet. Why do some people find the internet addictive? I think because there's so much into it and finding more information, looking out for gossip, sometimes playing games. So it could be really addictive because they really want to keep on doing it. What would the world be like without the internet? Oh, I can't imagine because we've, revolved around the internet so much. But I think if there was no internet, the people would be much calmer and they would not waste time. They would be more productive, and they would also have a more human touch and talk to each other more often. Do you think that the way people use the internet may change in the future? Yes, I don't think it would change, but I think they would definitely use it more and more in the future. Let's talk about social media websites. What are the ways that social media can be used for a positive purpose or purposes to promote products, to gain job opportunities, right? To pass out positive messages, to give out, good messages to citizens, right? So I think you could use it in a positive way. Now I'm only giving you points, right? Please don't think this is only the answer. දැන් මම ඔයගොල්ලන්ට කරන්නේ framework එකක් දෙන එක විතරයි answer එකේ. Right? I'm not going to, keep on talking and give you answers. Once I set the framework, you should be able to revolve around it and get your answer sorted, right? Why do some individuals post highly negative comments about other people? Well, probably because they dislike those people. Probably because they have a negative attitude themselves and they want to pass the vibe. Probably because sometimes they're just jobless. Okay? And the last question for today, do you think that companies' main form for advertising will be via social media in the future? Yes. I think they're using it now as well, through videos and giving, actors or actresses to promote them through social media. So yes, I think so. All right, so I think we've had a look at a lot of topics today. Internet, social media, about animals, about skills at work, communication, right? About money, how important it is, technology, society, education, right? Age, and also work-life balance. I've showed you a good video about Google, and all credits go to the original production of that video, right? And then we've also had a look at TV programs, right? Your favorite TV program. So I think with that, we've covered all the 4 tests in Book 13, and with that, we've come to the end of the speaking lesson, which covered 4 tests in the Cambridge Book 13.